institutions.
What do you make of this protest, though? The Free Nnamdi Kanu protest. There are those who are saying, look, it is legitimate. They're well within their rights to protest. It is enshrined in the Constitution. And there are those who are saying this protest is premature. The matter is still in court. There's progress being made on the matter in court. It seemed at some point that, yes, there was a lull, especially after he was brought back from Kenya. But then there are those who are saying it seems that new vigor has been given the case. Just last week, we heard from the Nigerian Medical Association that he's fit to stand trial. And it does appear that the justice system is now determined to take its course. What are your thoughts on the protests which seem to want to ground the Federal Capital Territory today?
Well, first and foremost, the Constitution is very clear. Section 36, subsection 5, that every Nigerian citizen is deemed to be innocent until proved guilty. A nation that detains a human being more than 7 years, and you have him in your custody, and yet you couldn't even reach a judgment as to the culpability of his crime, is a nation that is failing in the dispensation of justice. Justice delayed is justice denied. When it comes to the issue of crime, the Constitution is very clear that the accused or defendant should be judged within a reasonable time. It is very unreasonable to keep a man in detention for almost 7 years. What are you judging? This is telling on the judicial process of Nigeria. I tell you again, in the Constitution, they say the Attorney General, while making any decision as to charging anybody, discontinuing or taking over any criminal charge, should have regard for public interest, the interest of justice, and the need not to abuse the legal process. For me, in the case of Nnamdi Kanu, the legal processes have been abused. Nobody will remain sane to be in jail for more than 7 years that a case is being tried. People are frustrated. People believe that if you do not find anything against this man, release him or reach a political solution. That is what is bringing all these things. It's a result of frustration that there is no interest of justice served in this. So diligent prosecution is one of the pillars of justice in a criminal offense. I do not see that diligence. And the federal government is failing on all fronts. Remember, we have pleaded that this should be treated as a political issue and settled out politically so that every party will go home in peace. And then you are the one who arrested him. You are the one who put him on trial. You are the one who is delaying for up to 7 years without giving clear justice. So the federal government is failing on all rounds. And as they keep failing, they are making their matters worse.
So do you think that this is really, you've said this is a political issue.
It should be a political issue.
It should be.
Yes.
But is it?
That's what I'm saying. The government should treat it as a political issue. Remember, during the colonial masters, where people were fighting for our independence, the colonial masters saw them also as adversaries. But they were genuine fighters of freedom. So in this world, there will always be two aspects of an issue. You know, the kind of cost-benefit issue, if it is in business. What is a cost to somebody is a benefit to another. That is how you treat political issues. To some people, he's fighting and agitating for their rights and freedom. You should also take that into consideration. To you, you may say he may have infringed on some laws. Why doing that? You should take that into consideration. And if you're a wise government, you will come to a negotiation table and let each side make a shift and come to a compromise and settle this issue politically.
The issue which he agitates for, which IPOB has agitated for years, is something that countries generally find very difficult to deal with, which is the issue of self-determination. How do you think that can be resolved, given the fact that even if the federal government were to say, look, politically, we release him today, that certainly will not stop the agitations for people who believe that they should be given a separate country of their own?
Very good. And that is why you should not attribute it to him, that he is the originator and the perpetrator of this. I think it predates him and might even outlive him. So it is about the government learning how to treat agitators and how to dialogue with them. Because as you have aptly stated it didn't start with him. We've had MASOP, we've had other organizations. It may certainly not end with him. So it's about people expressing in their different ways their manners of frustration with the system. When things were so good in Nigeria, I wasn't hearing all these agitations. But whatever name you call them, it is frustration to the suffering, to the hunger and hardship in the country. That is the truth.
I was going to ask though, what side are you on? Are you on the side of the protesters? Do you support their cause? Or do you think that since this matter is already in court, pressure should be applied to the federal government to let this matter run as quickly as possible.
Very good. I am on the side of rule of law. I just told you that Nigerians have the right to protest. Section 40. And you can't take it away from them. It's their natural right, innate in them. And the Supreme Court has said, beyond exercising these rights, no human being can live a civilized life. So it is their innate natural right to protest. And it should be encouraged in a democracy. Because when you bottle up all these things, then there will be an implosion and explosion. But when people are allowed to express themselves, according to Section 39, they will ease off their anger. They will feel they've been heard. And then the government will also use it to understand the feeling of the people and know the solutions they are from and they are at. So the issue is that it is a support to rule of law. What does rule of law say? Somebody is innocent until you prove him guilty. And you must prove him guilty within a reasonable time. When it's unreasonable, it's no longer rule of law. And for me, keeping somebody for 7 years in the name of trial is unreasonable. So whatever it is, it should end now. Nnamdi Kanu should be released. Either the justice system moves at the speed it ought to move. In our laws, criminal trial ought to be held every day until judgment. That is what the law says. So I am on the side of law. I'm on the side of justice. Whether there's marginalization against the Southeast, that is given. So whether people will agitate, that is legal. Their method of agitation should also be legal. And if the government believes somebody has exceeded, then when you're applying the law, apply it legally, judiciously, and judicially. And in the case of Nnamdi Kanu, with respect, I can say they have not lived up to it.
Hello everyone, welcome back again to this channel. This is about Perspectives, your domain for unfiltered news and raw political analysis. It is where we say it the way it is and not how they want you to hear it. Now, on Channels Television, political analyst, or should I say politician and barrister Kenneth Okonkwo dropped one of the most fearless takes we've heard in recent times on the ongoing agitation for free Nnamdi Kanu, a protest currently led by Omoyele Sowore and a growing number of concerned Nigerians. Kenneth's words were not just opinions, they were truths many are too afraid to voice. Let's break this down undilutedly, point by point. Point 1, there is no basis holding Nnamdi Kanu for 7 years. Kenneth Okonkwo hit the nail straight on the head when he said there is no justification for keeping one man behind bars for long 7 years under the excuse of trial. And to me, let's be honest, how can a country claim to practice a democracy and yet keep someone in detention for 7 years without concluding a case? This is not just a legal issue, it is a moral failure and a constitutional disgrace when the government cannot prove guilt but also refuses to grant freedom. It tells you something deeper, that the system fears the man more than the crime. And if that is the case, then what we are saying isn't injustice, it is a political imprisonment. Point 2, Kenneth Okonkwo said and maintained that if you do not find him culpable, release him. This statement may sound simple, but it is actually explosive. Kenneth was reminding the government of a basic democratic principle: innocent until proven guilty. If after 7 years you still can't find Nnamdi Kanu culpable, then what exactly are you holding him for? Every additional day he spent behind bars weakens the credibility of the judicial system and strengthens the argument of those who say Nigeria runs on selective justice. Because justice delayed, as they say, is not just justice denied, it is justice destroyed. Point 3, Kenneth Okonkwo talked about a political solution who should be at the forefront now. At this time, this is wisdom. Kenneth Okonkwo is not saying free Nnamdi Kanu and forget the law. He is saying use dialogue, not dungeon. After all, we've seen the Nigerian government grant amnesty to former militants, negotiate with bandits, terrorists, and even pardon convicted politicians. So if others can get a handshake after committing far worse crimes, why is dialogue impossible with someone who represents a political movement born from frustration and exclusion? A political solution in this corridor means addressing the root cause, not just silencing the voice, because silencing the voice doesn't end the cry, it only echoes louder in the hearts of the oppressed. Moving on to point 4, he also raised the issue of court having freed and acquitted Nnamdi Kanu, yet the government disobeyed. So this is the part that should be, troubling every Nigerian. A court of competent jurisdiction, not once, but multiple times, ordered Nnamdi Kanu's release, yet the government ignored it. Let's even pause. If a government can disobey its own court, what message does that send to the, common man? It means no one is safe. It means your right exists only until state decides they don't. Kenneth is right. This court drama will lead nowhere, not even in 50 years. Because what is the point of the trial when the judgment means nothing? And his warning was sharp. If Kanu dies in custody, the government will open a wound that no amount of propaganda can heal. Because injustice doesn't end with one man's death. It spreads like wildfire. Moving on to point 5. If Kanu is released, he may go back to agitation. When Kenneth Okonkwo was, faced with this question, he showed maturity and truth. He says Kanu might return to his agitation, but that is not the real issue. The real issue is why the agitation started in the first place. This is where most people miss the point. The agitation didn't just fall from the sky. It was born out of marginalization, hunger, and frustration. So it's the voice of the people who feel unheard, unseen, and unwanted. As Kenneth Okonkwo said, agitation is not rebellion. It is a reaction to poor governance. You don't end agitation by silencing people. You end it by, giving them a reason not to agitate anymore. Point 6, the government should learn to dialogue with the agitators. This is perhaps the most important part of the Kenneth Okonkwo's message. Nigeria has spent decades fighting its own citizens instead of listening to them. From the Niger Delta to the Northeast to the Southeast, and every crisis has, common roots, injustice and lack of dialogue. The government often forget that dialogue isn't weakness, it is actually wisdom. When you talk to people, you understand them. When you ignore them, you create enemies where there could have been allies. Kenneth Okonkwo's call for dialogue is not just political, it is human and moral. The agitation is a reflection of hunger and frustration in the land. This line hits deep because truly, beyond politics, beyond tribe, beyond ideology, the Nigerian problem is hunger. When people can't eat, when they have no jobs, when the education fails, the healthcare collapses, agitation becomes inevitable. You can, imprison a man, but you can't imprison an idea. And until the system fixes what is broken, the inequality, the corruption, the hopelessness, no amount of force can silence that cry for justice. Conclusively, Kenneth Okonkwo's words were not just mere commentary. They were a mirror showing Nigeria what it has refused to see. A country cannot heal by gelling its conscience. You can't claim to fight disunity while practicing selective justice. The truth remains, releasing Nnamdi Kanu is not about politics. It's about principle. And if Nigeria truly wants peace, it must start with justice. Once again, this is about perspectives, your source for undiluted news and raw political analysis. If you found this breakdown insightful, do well to like, comment, share, and of course, subscribe. Because here we give it to you how the mainstream media cannot oblige. Until next time, stay informed, stay conscious, and remember, when truth is delayed, freedom is denied. And when it is being allowed to happen, everyone pays for it. Thank you for watching.